Howdy y'all, Fuzzy Biker here in the Fuzzy Biker Garage. Look what I got over my shoulder today. That is a brand spanking new slate gray Royal Enfield Himalayan. One of my favorite motorcycles on the planet. Actually, that's my favorite motorcycle on the planet. That's the same exact bike, but that's 2001 I think. This is 2000, whatever the latest model is. Absolutely beautiful machine. I put 640 miles on this thing in one day, so I know what these things are capable of. And this particular one has 26,000 miles on it, so I know what these are capable of. Anyway, a beautiful machine, sunny day out there. Let's go for a ride. Wahoo! So what is a Royal Enfield Himalayan and what makes it so great? Well, it's a low displacement ADV bike. I think it's a perfect displacement actually for a good ADV bike. It's a 411cc, single cylinder, air cooled, oil cooled, little hot rod with a 5-speed transmission. It's got a single overhead cam, 2 valves per cylinder, very simple design, built like a rock, just solid as can be. Like I said, I've got 26,000, over 26,000 of mine. Puts out about 24 horsepower in stock form, with about 24 foot-pounds of torque. That's about 32 newton meters. You can get quite a jump in power by adding a DNA air filter, an intake plate, and an exhaust pipe. And then another step above that would be the camshaft. Very easy to do on a bike like this. And the power you get out of it is phenomenal. It just does really well. It's got an amazing suspension, starting with the 90/90 21-inch front tire. Those are on 41 millimeter tubes with about 7.9 inches of travel in the front suspension. That's about 200 millimeters. The rear suspension is monoshock, has about 7.1 inches of travel. That's about 180 millimeters. Ground clearance is about 220 millimeters, which is about 8.6 inches. The bike has a 300 millimeter disc brake on the front with a dual piston vibri caliper. On the rear is a 240 millimeter disc, I believe, with a single piston vibri caliper. ABS front and rear. I feel the brakes on these bikes are great, especially on gravel and on dirt. On pavement, I think they're good brakes. Seat height in stock form is about 31.5 inches, about 800 millimeters. Hey, we got some traffic going here today. This is Iowa's busiest intersection right here in front of us. Wheelbase is 58 inches, about 1,473 millimeters. Fuel tank holds about 4 gallons, that's about 15 liters. And the bike weighs 439 pounds, or about 200 kilograms. That's with a full tank of fuel. To me, this bike's big claim to fame is the fact that you can be riding on pavement like this, see a gravel road like that ahead of us, and just keep on it going. It's a little heavy for dirt biking, but it's a great adventure motorcycle. It really does that very well. And it can go long distance. Like I said, I rode mine about 640 miles one day. I did a 2-day trip that was over 1,000 miles. Absolute ball in it, I mean to tell you. I even went through the middle of Kansas City. I don't recommend doing that, but the bike was going 80. One of the reasons this bike is so versatile is actually the engine, the 411cc engine. 24 horsepower, but it also has 24 foot-pounds of torque, and that torque really comes in around 3,000 RPM and goes all the way to about 5,500 RPM. That's the max range. And so you've got all this useful power, which makes the bike very easy to drive, very easy to manage. You know, it seems like it's always in the right gear. You don't ever have to worry about killing it, or it just does very well all the time. It's not fast. It's one thing it won't do is go fast, but it'll do just about everything else. Seating position on the bike, you sit about upright. You do have to reach the bars a little bit. Some people put extenders to bring them closer. I think they're fine just the way they are, because when you get on the dirt, you like to be over the bars a little more. Your hips and your knees are about the same height. Your heels are behind your knees. They're perfect for standing up. You know, you can stand up real easy. You know, it just does it real well. It's set up for that kind of riding. You know, it's really set up for very versatile riding things. I think the bike is relatively comfortable. I did get a different seat on mine because I do ride long ways. The bike is tall and it's a little stilty in the garage. And it, you know, it does well in the parking lot. It does okay. You can tell it's a tall bike. It has a center of gravity that is much higher than my Classic 350, Royal Enfield Classic 350. You know, streets like this, absolutely no trouble at all. Look at that street art. You know what? Let's kind of do the spin test here. There's no traffic. I call this the hill spin test. Look at that. No trouble at all. By golly. Well, the next time you all get to Marnie, Iowa, we are in Marnie, Iowa. Make sure you stop over here at the Derailed Grill right there. Try their world famous Wahoo burger. By golly, this is the mighty mini-tropolis of Marnie, Iowa. You go to exit 51 on Interstate 80 and you go south about 3 miles. You'll end up right in front of Baxter Cycle. How does the bike do on 2-lane blacktop? It's heaven on 2-lane blacktop. I love it for that. I just, that 640 miles I did, almost, I'd say 3/4 of that was on 2-lane blacktop, and the bike was just a joy to ride there. Loads of power. Interstate, you can do interstate. I tend not to. Having said that, I did go right through the middle of Kansas City, and it did it okay. I don't recommend doing that, but it does do it fine. How about switch gear and gauges? Well, let's start with the gauges. When I bought my bike about 3 years ago, I thought this was antiquated at that time. It looked pretty dated. However, it does work very well. You know, you've got this big old speedometer on the left side. Down here in the bottom, you've got an always visible clock. You've got the temperature, odometer, always visible trip meter. You've got a gear indicator over here, an analog fuel gauge, an analog tachometer, and a whole slew of lights here, including separate left and right blinkers, a neutral light. I think there's a fuel light also. Up here, you've got flash to pass light over here, high lows. Hey, what do we got for traffic here? Blinkers, horn. Then over here, a kill switch, hazard lights, start switch, and of course, the clutch over on this side, the brakes over on this side. The mirrors on mine were kind of close in, so I extended them out a little bit, but what I found with the newer ones, I think they put them out a little farther. So in that sense, it does very well. It's a great bike. You can get all kinds of accessories for these, big luggage bags for the back. You can really dress it up for the long ride. You can get bags for the front. Other things you get for the front are gas containers or water bottles, or just all, I've seen these things just packed up. Oh, you wouldn't believe what people do with these things. It's absolutely amazing. Well, anyway, if you're in the market for something like this, a new or used Royal Enfield, Triumph, classic British bike of any type, get yourself down here to Baxter Cycle right here in the mighty metropolis of Marnie, Iowa, or go to baxtercycle.com. Those guys can help you out. They've got parts, accessories, thingamajigs, doodads, sweet googly woogly. They've got it all. Can I even talk? Make sure you tell them Fuzzy Biker sent you. Now, if it's a nice day out where y'all are at, get yourselves out there and ride, my friends. I am going to do the same. Life is good. Wahoo!